Hello guys, good morning. Today is September 7th, Wednesday. I'm gonna be recording today's session. New York Kill Zone, New York session mostly. And seeing if we can get anything good out of it. And we have a little bit of an interesting price action, at least so far. Complicated from what I've been able to tell, because I would have liked something to happen that didn't entirely happen, but kind of happened. And we might create that 15-minute. But the thing is that midnight starts, trades lower, power of 3. The power of 3 concept kind of works out there. You see how price starts going lower, but then just continues higher. Tiny bit of a retracement, takes sell side, continues higher. Retracement, sell side. Actually, it doesn't take any kind of liquidity, just continues higher. And this is important, in my opinion, because price is just respecting this couple of mitigations that we had yesterday. Yesterday. And today's London's high. And because price reacted as aggressive as it did on this couple of equal lows here to the left here, what I was actually expecting price to do was to take the liquidity as it has, cause an aggression higher, creating fair value gaps, and causing a market shift. We could say that this is a market shift, as we do have a little bit of displacement or fair value gap here. But my opinion should have been a little bit better with this high, and a little bit of a bigger fair value gap, to be fully honest. That's kind of what I was looking for price to create fair value gaps immediately, and it was pretty close to creating that 50-minute, but we would have not had the fair value gap. Sorry, the market shift along with that fair value gap, so it would have been useless anyways. And what I was trying to determine now is, are we going to continue to go lower, or are we going to continue to go higher? Recently, we've swept sell side, so I would expect price to go higher, but based on ICT, when highs are created like this, it's high resistance area or something like that. These highs, I mean, this is the high that we're looking for price to be taken, but all of these highs are different levels that price has to get through, and taking the liquidity through them and actually finally getting up to this, right? It's somewhere around the first month, if I remember correctly, of the car content. So yeah, it might be difficult to get all the way up there, but I was expecting the sell side to be enough, but maybe it isn't, and we might get just a continuation bearish. So just a bearish continuation. So at the time, being honest, I don't have any clear trend. I would like to have a clear bullish opportunity, right? We do have fair value gap here as an example that could say happens before the break of this high, so that could be a fair value gap, but I'm just really not a fan of this one, if I can be honest. Yeah, that one's gonna be complicated. We also have price opens here on New York and starts trading lower, which could be considered as market protraction or the power of 3 concept, right? Typical manipulation on a specific time. But the thing is that currently it's complicated. We don't have a clear direction. Based on London, we're going to be bearish, but we do have a lot of pending buy side liquidity that, in my opinion, sooner or later should be taken. And that will be pretty much it. For me to trade right now, I just need a higher low being taken as liquidity and seeing displacement in the 5 minutes to actually be able to trade, right? That's what I'm going to try and do. And I'm going to be updating you whenever I have something good. So that's pretty much it. Okay. So by the power of 3, we have that London's low has been taken quite a bit. Sell side liquidity has been taken. Kill zone, near kill zone opens and trades somewhat aggressively lower. If we wanted to talk about phase 1 goes against the trend and takes sell side liquidity, although we wouldn't be really against the trend if you see it from the point of view that London just set a bearish trend after mitigating that high, those couple of highs. And now we've swept the sell side liquidity, started to go higher, but if you see the impulse higher from the 5 minute alone, it doesn't really look like much of an impulse, does it? See how it goes slowly higher and even respects this high, we could say that if the order block was respected, I wouldn't really care that much about that order block if I'm being honest. So I'm not even gonna count that. So goes higher, session opens, goes against the trend. I do believe that this is a really good indication that we could have a bullish session, right? But the question is from where? The question and the problem, from where could we be bullish? Now, also, right, we are creating a lot of equal highs around this area, which is actually not bad for the for the bullish trend, right? Because sooner or later we are going to take those highs, but still we are within that issue that it could be simply a tiny bit of a retracement to just continue higher. Sorry, lower. I do like the fair value gap that we have in the 5-minute, although market shift wise we haven't really gotten much unless we want to consider this as the market shift, which I don't like that much, right? Ignore the buy that I have here. This is something that I took last night. And the buy limit is simply based on power of 3, market shift, displacement, and trying to get onto that, but kind of late. So even if I would have taken this on a challenge, I would have already taken it out, but it's not something that I would take on a challenge. So we're trading inside the fair value gap on the 5-minute. Now, the 15-minute makes no sense, so we could take that off and we will still be fine with it, which we're actually going to do. Is that the way? No. There it is. Yeah, sure. I mean, it would have been the same done it one way or the other. So my problem with everything that we currently have is there's no clear indication in where to go. The fair value gap on the 5-minute is somewhat useless because we haven't really gotten a market shift, and there's a lot of buy-side liquidity being built up there, which is a good indication, of course. Could we say that we had a market shift with a fair value gap, so we could have tried to sell from here? Yes. Did we get anything in here? No, except maybe this, but at that point the high of the fair value gap is already broken, so it doesn't really make that much sense. Let me actually take this off. It's actually a little bit... Sometimes when I'm feeling a bit lost, I prefer to just delete stuff off of the charts and just try to look at price action. So can we buy from here? I kind of want to say yes, but we don't really have much to use in our advantage. We have the fact that this impulse higher, this from this lows to this high, has mitigated this order block here, quite aggressive move lower, and also it mitigates the 62%, 50% of it, so equilibrium and this guy, and then this happens. Right, could we say that that's a good indication? Yeah, I wouldn't really consider it as much, if I can be honest. I'd be more interested of this. Filling in the gap, mitigating 1-minute fair value gap, but my problem right now is that we don't have anything to use as a market shift in the 1-minute as an example, right? Because even if we created the most oblivious market shift, fair value gap, we can't really trade it unless we actually get a fair value gap. A market shift, sorry. Yeah, it's just too much. It's very complicated price action. Kind of would like to see the highs being taken, just displacement lower to make it easier, or the low created on the 5-minute just taken and then displacement higher. You know, this low will be great for price to take it because we could have a scenario like this. Displacement here, maybe a market shift in the middle, and lower time from entries. That will be interesting to see, but complicated at the same time. That high that is being created is also good for us, because now price could break that high, and that could be our market shift. So I'm happy about that high, but it has to break it with fair value gap and everything, so we are still pretty far from it. Yeah, I don't think that that low is going to hold. And if it does, we might get something bullish. I feel like price is just ranging to just explode higher sooner rather than later, honestly. So we're definitely getting that market shift. Problem will be fair value gap and the stop loss. We have an order block that we can use as well. Okay. Let me actually give a little bit of a message to the boys over at hold on. Okay. On Discord. Um So the cons of the trade or the potential opportunity that we have in our hands is this. First, when what goes higher doesn't cause a market shift. Can we say that this was a bullish market shift? Yes, but I would have liked it to be a little bit more aggressive. You know, it's like it didn't really do much with it, which bothers me a lot. I can't sell, so I'm not really considering the sells at all because we could say we might have something in here after mitigating the whatever we have in there. Maybe, but I just don't really consider that as anything, honestly. It's just nothing for me. Um Nice reaction, still like it, right? But we haven't gotten a clear price action to actually take like a fair value gap. And even if, as an example, this couple of candles created a fair value gap, which clearly they don't, we would have had a little bit of a hard time due to the stop loss, right? The stop loss ideally would have been all the way down here, which would have had, I don't know, a really bad risk to reward ratio, which I'm not interested on. That's another concept. I think that currently I'm not gonna be able to buy. If price takes the low in the 5 minute, I might risk it and go for whatever is created in the 1 minute. If there's a market shift with displacement and everything, might take that. But right now it just nothing really makes enough sense for me to be risking money on it. Here price as an example has mitigated this order block and could go higher from that, but I mean, that's, I don't trade all of the blocks just like that. Or the blocks for me are just extra confluences, not areas to execute trades on. So even if that was going to work out, I definitely not take it. I'm very confident this is going higher. I'm very confident. I'm not taking anything yet. I mean, the only entry that was taken on paper trading was this one, remember? That's what's kind of working out there. But again, this entry is something that I took last night on this fair value gap. Or the, no, yeah, fair value gap. I think we had an order block and everything. But really closed pretty big of that position. Could it be reaching into this to fall? Yes. Would I want to be on that? Not really. If I can be honest. There's nothing that I can do with the sells. Again, I needed a buy side liquidity being taken to then maybe consider the buys, but it just doesn't make that much sense. And I'm gonna say once again, I do believe this is just ranging to explode higher, and we haven't gotten clear opportunities or clear points of entry so far to take advantage of that move. So nothing so far, honestly, pretty boring. And I'm gonna be making a pause, and I'll come back later on. Honestly, right now there's really not much that we can use in our favor at all. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Okay, so price has impulsed a little bit more. And kind of thinking if I missed out on that buy down there, which I don't really think so. And we can discuss that later. So price is just going higher. That little bit of a reaction to the level is price just building up a little bit more liquidity. Sooner or later, it will take that. Well, now apparently. And now the question is this just a run and buy side, or is this just price going higher? Right? That's gonna be the question for the day, at least for a couple of hours. Not a couple of hours, couple of minutes. And this is the entry we discussed. Entry I took on paper trading. Working out for now. Target was ideally going above London's high. Pretty long target. And the problem with that one is that we don't really have a clear fair value gap to the left. And we will be basing it basically on the order block on the 5-minute without a market shift on the fair value gap, and only in the 1-minute. Yeah, makes sense. Still, it's a pretty good opportunity overall. But yeah, there you go. That might be the move of the day. Maybe this is what begins that aggressive move higher, whether it is a run on buy side, just that, or just an actual direction the price is setting here. It's definitely a very aggressive move that at that point so far already would have given us 5R in a couple minutes, honestly. Approximately 18 minutes. Lovely trade. But again, nothing I could have taken, honestly. So it truly is what it is. And we're gonna close half of this. Stop this to half. Simple as that. 5R already. It's a lot of money. At that point, I wouldn't really think that this is just a run on buy side liquidity, but of course there are multiple other highs that price could be taken as liquidity. Question is, will it be just that to drop lower later, or if we're just going to continue with the bullish trend overall? You know, it's a pretty big question. Here you can see we had all the other entries based on the core content. Have the order block, another order block in here. Also we do have the fair value gap as well. And then this could have been another entry, but the price doesn't really reach the order block, so nothing on that one actually. Okay, well, I'm gonna be making a pause. We'll see if we actually get something later on, which, well, we would need a retracement at least, of course. But there's nothing else to do for now. I was right on expecting this to be just like a range to then just go higher. Just from my point of view, I never really got a clear entry on this little bit of a range to take advantage of the move, and it is what it is, honestly. That's pretty much it, and I'll be coming back in a couple minutes. So I wanted to show you this, which is a little bit of a premature execution. But the thing is that price has mitigated a 50-minute fair value gap here, right? Mitigated the 50-minute fair value gap, took a tiny bit of a low on the 1-minute, and now has caused a pretty aggressive move first, then a little bit of a retracement, mitigating potentially this order block, can't really say for sure. Aggression higher again, and what this created, well, this high mostly, is a little bit of a, could say lower high, yeah, lower high, or just a high, a low, a higher high, potentially a higher low, to now continue higher, right? What we could have traded was this fair value gap that has just been created, or the order block itself. What I did was take the execution here, where you saw me execute it, probably a little bit higher. And the reason is because of, well, what's happening right now and what could continue to happen, which when price is aggressive, it tends to leave these order blocks, sorry, not order blocks, fair value gaps behind, not really mitigate them, right? I'm not saying this is the case, I'm saying that this could be the case. That's the reason why I actually executed the entry right there. And I'm expecting price to continue higher, and this is something that I'm just trading on paper trading because it's an example for me to actually take this on a funded or challenge. we would have needed this fair value gap to have been created after run sell side liquidity, which we do kind of have that, don't we? Yeah, because run sell side, a little bit of a range aggression, fair value gap. I mean, it is somewhat what we would look for, but even if I saw an entry with what we trade every single day, I wouldn't take it. I wouldn't take it because as I have had already a pretty good opportunity down there, that it might be, it wasn't a bad miss, but I do have to do a thorough analysis on it to determine if it would have been a nice opportunity to take or not, or an opportunity that I should have taken or not. As I've missed out on that opportunity and price has gone pretty high up, and being fully honest, it got further than 8R. 8% is what you need to pass an MFF challenge, which means that this is a pretty good trade to take advantage of, right? I'm not sure that I would have held all the way down to up to London, and if I would have had, I probably would have closed at least 80% of the trade around one of these highs, right? Around 5R, 6R, maybe 7R, right? So yeah, the rest will be running up to London's high, which in my opinion is highly likely to get to, but just would have not really held that long. This is, in my opinion, a really good opportunity. Again, nothing I would take on a challenger funded because we are, because of what happened earlier, simply. And I wanted to check this time. Did it get to the 50 at least? Nah, it didn't. Unless we count it from here, which it definitely does. Right, 50% of the move. But it is what it is, you know. Let me not sync this. And that's really pretty much it. Just wanted to show this, the little bit of an execution that we took there. Pretty good buy up there. Why is there a sell here? Oh, this sell is actually closing partials. It wouldn't make that much sense, would it? This is partials, I know that. Due to the amount that I close here, I could say these are partials, but it doesn't really make that much sense as I literally bought almost exactly there. The reason why I bought there is because of this aggression higher. This was a little bit of a premature execution as well, but the stop loss was being held, sorry, a little bit below this low, just in case, well, it did what it did, right? But yeah, I'm guessing it's partials, but it doesn't really make that much sense if I can be honest. First execution, why was this one? Oh, the order block, right? The 5-minute order block here being mitigated up there. All right, yeah, makes sense. So the stop is all the way down to the low. Then the entry that we discussed, partial. Oh, and we had the execution from last. I moved something there, didn't I? No. The execution from last night. So there. All right, on the fair value gap, if I remember correctly. That's pretty much it. So the executions for this day's price action. Of course, target is all the way up here. Probably going to be taking partials up here. I'm not entirely sure how much we're making on this. Let's take off the executions. What? Ah, okay. Okay. So 1300, I think it's a 3, no, not a 3%, 2.5. No, that's too minimum. How much do we have in the account? 35.9. So 1% will be 300. So that's around a 3% running. Yeah, a little bit more than 3% running. And looking at 5,000, I think it's set. So over 10. Well, yeah, kind of close to 20%, but 10 approximately. That's why I set the alert there to take some partials. Might get back down into this to fair value gap to trade into it. Or might just go for this order block here, right? It's a tiny bit of a thing right here, which it just mitigated. It could be nice. Also the fair value gap in there and all. But just wanted to show the execution that I took earlier here, and that's really pretty much it. I did like the potential opportunity mitigating the 50-minute fair value gap and all. And yeah, that's all I want to say. I think this is going to be it. This is going to be the video. If I decide to upload this, then the resume will be after this. Yeah, that execution would have worked out lovely here. The order block looks lovely so far, at least. That's pretty much it. Hope you enjoyed so far. Maybe I continue to record later on, and that's pretty much it. All right, so London's high was finally taken, as we could have expected. I do have, I need to open Telegram again. On Telegram this morning, I sent out this screenshot right here. Oh, well, I mean, can I show that? Yeah, I can I? Yeah. So, get the phone. So, the screenshot that I sent was this one. It was from my phone. And as you can see, we were down here. First reactions, right? The 5 minute hadn't created that 5 minute fair value gap yet. Major liquidity, well, run, not rin. Here we had a couple of mitigations around those equal lows back here. Price takes that and starts going higher. And I was expecting price to get all the way up here, which is basically what happened, right? So let's talk a bit about why we could have expected that. I mean, I kind of explained that already through the live video, but might as well do it again. Let's save this in a folder, but hide it. So why could have we expected, why would have I expected a bullish day? Remember that I tend to just analyze phase 1, phase 2, and then just trade with what I got at that point, right? And of course, what happened through London and everything tends to be useful as well. So we have the fact that phase 1 opens, and we would expect price to basically manipulate, to trigger, not to trigger, but to induce people into, as an example, in this case, selling or believing that session could be bearish, while the exact opposite was supposed to happen, right? So we have that price opens right here and it starts going lower all the way down to this low. So we have phase 1 starts going against the trend, and also we have a run and sell side liquidity, right? So phase 1, run and sell, move against the trend. And I put that in between quotes because against, it's not something that we can know. I do believe I said this when I was analyzing it, because we can't really say for sure that this was a move against the trend due to the fact that price was bullish. Was bearish already at that point. Have this as the market shift, or well, then this is broken and price just continues to respect that, right? A lot of sell side liquidity was being taken, right, on multiple levels, but you can see how this is respected, and then price goes below that, immediately changes the direction, right? Well, what was my issue today? What is it that I look for? How do I trade? I wait for a run and stops, which is exactly what we have here. I wait for displacement and market shift on 5 or 15 minute. And in this case, we do have fair value gaps in the 5 minute. The only one that we could have actually taken advantage of within this one, because the one that is above it, this one right here, the problem with this one is that if we look into Fibonacci, this is the 50%, so this area is at premium, and we can't buy on a premium, right? We have to buy on a discount and sell at a premium, right? So just because of that, we're definitely going to avoid this one. And my problem was that I did not, and I kind of still believe that this is not good enough to consider it as a market shift, right? This tiny bit of a high here. We don't see much aggression at first. In my opinion, there's not enough aggression. This is aggression. You can see how price basically has a pretty clear impulse high, another impulse high, and leaves this clear fair value gap on this. If this exact price action would have happened here while breaking this high, that might have been a little bit more inclined into taking something like that, right? So that was my problem today, that didn't allow me to take opportunities in here. And besides from that, let's just look at the facts, right? We have price run and sell side, aggression higher, fair value gaps, right? Potential market shift. Let's suppose that was market shift. Price trades back into it, and this is New York Open, right? This is the session open. What do we have at first? Market retraction, run and sell side liquidity, move against the trend. In this case, it is a move against the trend, in my opinion, but now let's put NY open. Move against the trend. Sorry, we don't have a run of sell side liquidity. In the lower time frames we do, but it's just really not that much to consider as a really good confluence. Move against the trend. So we have power of 3. Market retraction. And there's something else, just simple manipulation, right? Into the open, just making making people believe that price could go lower, but then just completely turns around. And here comes the complicated part, because we have this clear 5-minute order block. We can say that this is an order block without any kind of an issue. Let's delete this and this. This is a 5-minute order block. Let's put it as range. Have a different color. And if we go down into the 1 minute, price mitigates the order block, goes below the 50% and all. We have a little bit of a 1 minute order block right there as well. Then a bit of a reaction, creates a high. That high is taken, just taken, right? Market shift basically at that point with a lot of aggression. This is clear aggression in the 1 minute, and this is the entry, right? This is the entry that would have given us a pretty clear opportunity. This also does create a 5-minute fair value gap, but we'll get into that in a second. So what happens? We have session opens, starts going against the trend, or just moves lower, which with power of 3, we could expect price to actually go exactly in the opposite direction. Market retraction concepts as well. Mitigates a 5-minute fair value gap that, in my opinion, again, we don't have a fair value gap, a market shift, but it's debatable. And this would have been the entry. Now, what was my problem with it? The 5-minute hadn't caused a market shift, in my opinion, but we do get something later on, which is this first reaction, which is where the 1 minute fair value gap is created around these levels. Price goes higher, and we do have a tiny high being broken, but in my opinion, the high that should have been broken would have been this, right? Even though, as an example, maybe it would have gone just higher by a few ticks while still respecting this high, I would have not cared. Right, if this candle would have gone just as high above this high, basically, I would count this as sell side liquidity run, impulse, market shift, fair value gap. That's our entry, right? This is where we would have looked for the 1 minute entry. And if we go down into the 1 minute, we have this little bit of a messy price action at first, but then we have order block, displacement, entry, right? We may have another order block here that could have tried to take advantage of, or just the fair value gap right there, right? Yeah, those would have been the interest, right? This would have been the only interest that we could have caught down here pretty low into the move. That would have allowed us to basically just ride the entire move all the way up to this high, of course, right? So how could we expect the price to be bullish? The fact that it took a lot of sell-side liquidity, and that this impulse higher in London doesn't take liquidity but respects liquidity, right? The fact that it does that, it just shows that there's an important level that is the price is, between quotes, failing to break, then goes lower, and then it's failing to break this. So what do we have here? We have a clear area of resistance, a clear area of support. The price is just going to bounce on and off, on and off, on and off. What ends up happening? Price breaks one level, goes to the next one. Simple as that. So as I said, I was expecting a bullish day. We definitely got it. The reason why I was expecting a bullish day is due to all the liquidity taken here. The fact that this low was broken, which in my opinion, well, not in my opinion, which I was not expecting at all. Then this, have retracement, creates liquidity, takes liquidity, looks for liquidity. And now we're just, in my opinion, we're going to have the rest of the week is just going to continue to be bullish. We might not get that, but that's what I'm going to be expecting. And that's simply it. So again, what confluences do we have to expect the bullish market? We have phase 1, or the beginning of kill zone, is shows indications of market retraction or just manipulation when it goes lower, going lower, and inducing people into believing that price could be bearish for the entire session when it actually turns out not to be. Session opening goes along with that. It starts going lower, manipulating people into believing that the session is going to be low, it's going to be bearish. And also we have the fact that it's respecting the low, this low right here, right? Maybe even an order block could be considered, and shows a little bit of an aggression. And what else? Well, the fact that it's just building more buy-side liquidity, the fact that buy-side liquidity was left behind up here, which is definitely going to be taken. And besides from that, that's pretty much it. I mean, we do have some really good confluences to be buying from here. Again, not the way that I trade in my opinion. I'll have to do a thorough analysis onto that one because I do have to check if the market shift should have been considered a market shift or not. And it's just a lot of complicated stuff that I just have to rewatch and try and understand if I should have participated on this or not. And I think that's really good enough reasons to actually be looking for buys, right? If we decided to go further, look at where we are. Below a lot of sell-side liquidity, we're below previous week's low, below the previous daily lower low. Just a lot of liquidity, honestly, just a lot of liquidity. And we're likely to get a swing low here if I understand the concept correctly. This candle is hot, so one candle lower and two to the sides higher than it, right? Than the one lower in this case. So if the next candle is bullish, we could confirm that this is somewhat of a swing low. Again, if I understand the concept correctly, I might not. And that is pretty much it. We could see today price going above previous day's high, but we're pretty far from it, and we've moved quite a bit already, right? And in the 1 hour, it's lovely how you see price actually just nicking below that low and going aggressively higher. Completely expected at that point, to be honest. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope that this video was good. Right, I do believe we had a pretty interesting session. Sadly, I was not able to take advantage of it. Again, not entirely sure if it was because I mistraded or did something wrong, right? Or I misanalyzed the if I misanalyzed the market. But I'll be working on that on my Notion resume in a later in the afternoon, right? So I think that's pretty much it. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope it was helped you in any way, and I'll be talking to you until the next one.